If you had really understood Timpson's poetry, you would have realized that it went with close-cropped red hair and a fat body. And you should have known that MacIntyre, this was the financier, had the music and metaphysics type of mind. That's why he puzzles the city so. If you understand a man's work well enough, you can guess pretty accurately what he'll look like. I don't mean the colour of his eyes and his hair, but the general atmosphere of him. It was Sandy's agreeable habit to fling an occasional paradox at the table with the view of starting an argument. This time he stirred up Pugh, who had come to the War Office from the Indian Staff Corps. Pugh had been a great figure in Secret Service work in the East, but he did not look the part, for he had the air of a polo-playing cavalry subaltern. The skin was stretched as tight over his cheekbones as over the knuckles of a clenched fist, and was so dark that it had the appearance of beaten bronze. He had black hair, rather beady black eyes, and a hooky nose, which in the Celt often goes with that colouring. He was himself a very good refutation of Sandy's theory. "I don't agree," Pugh said. "At least, not as a general principle. One piece of humanity whose work I studied with the microscope for 2 aching years upset all my notions when I came to meet it." Then he told us his story. When I was brought to England in November 17, and given a hush department on 3 floors of an 18th-century house in a back street, I had a good deal to learn about my business. That I learned it in reasonable time was due to the extraordinarily fine staff that I found provided for me. Not one of them was a regular soldier. They were all educated men. They had to be in that job, but they came out of every sort of environment. One of the best was a Shetland laird. Another was an Admiralty Court KC. And I had besides a metallurgical chemist, a golf champion, a leader writer, a popular dramatist, several actuaries, and an East End curate. None of them thought of anything but his job. And at the end of the war, when some ass proposed to make them OBEs, there was a very fair imitation of a riot. A more loyal crowd never existed, and they accepted me as their chief as unquestioningly as if I had been with them since 1914. To the war in the ordinary sense, they scarcely gave a thought. You found the same thing in a lot of other behind-the-lines departments, and I dare say it was a good thing. It kept their nerves quiet and their minds concentrated. After all, our business was only to decode and decipher German messages. We had nothing to do with the use which was made of them. It was a curious little nest, and when the armistice came, my people were flabbergasted. They hadn't realized that their job was bound up with the war. The one who most interested me was second in command, Philip Channell. He was a man of 43, about 5'4" in height, weighing, I fancy, under 9 stone, and almost as blind as an owl. He was good enough at papers with his double glasses, but he could hardly recognize you 3 yards off. He had been a professor at some Midland college, mathematics or physics, I think, and as soon as the war began, he had tried to enlist. Of course, they wouldn't have him. He was about E5 in any physical classification, besides being well over age, but he would take no refusal, and presently he worried his way into the government service. Fortunately, he found a job which he could do superlatively well, for I do not believe there was a man alive with more natural genius for cryptography. I don't know if any of you have ever given your mind to that heartbreaking subject. Anyhow, you know that secret...